What's going on, everybody? Revolver here. In today's video, we are putting together a solo queue ranked tier list. With rank coming out today, I want to put together a video that's going to help you put together a hero pool and hopefully win more solo queue games. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe for more Deadlock content, and please let me know below what you think and what changes you would have made to my tier list. Okay, so starting off with A, we have Abrams. He's S tier. I'm sure you guys are so surprised. Yes, tanks generally require some level of follow-up from your team, which we can't count on because we don't know what elo we're going to be being placed in the beginning of our games. Abrams is still Abrams and still tons of map pressure, tons of lane pressure, scales really well throughout the game. He's really self-sufficient, still does good damage, all that stuff. Bebop. Bebop's going to be in B tier. B tier for Bebop. Long story short, he's good, but he's not crazy good. If you're not ahead, then he's just a hook bot, and if your teammates don't follow up properly, it can be kind of frustrating and really not end super well. As well as, of course, if there's a Bebop on your team and he pulls the tank, Realistically, though, the changes that they made to him with his now unlimited scaling that falls off on death is going to make a lot more people want to go the bomb build, even though there is that really good average Jonas stealth build that's out there right now. I just think that he's just kind of middle of the pack right now, so we're going to put him in the B tier. Dynamo is going to go probably B tier as well. As soon as you get into higher games and higher ranks, and again, we don't really know how that's going to work or what the time frame is going to be. Dynamo is going to shoot up in strength and popularity, but if we don't know who our teammates are and if they're going to pay attention and know what to do, and ult like Dynamo's really isn't going to help just you. And one of the biggest things about solo queue is you really need to be able to solo carry, which Dynamo struggles to do even more so than Bebop. So we're going to put him down a little bit. Great Talon. So I've actually kind of changed my opinion on Great Talon a little bit, but not relevant here. I think Great Talon's actually really good at a comp level, competitive level, like the highest level. I think the CC value of his ult is crazy. In games, I've used it to engage for nearby lanes. I've used it to clean up for nearby lanes. I've used it to help teammates escape. I've used it to stop ults and do all kinds of disruptive stuff like that in fights. I really think there's a lot of value in that. However, in solo queue, he's got no escape, and his only good build is the 1 max build, which is really just a counter build to Vindicta. Like, that's kind of really the only person it really counters. Like, if you get ahead, you can deal with like some character, but for the most part, like, it's really just a good build. The build really only snipes Vindicta out of the air. So we're gonna put him in D tier. He's terrible right now. We love Great Talon. I actually enjoy playing him. And I really think, like I said, he's got a ton of value at the highest levels, but really only at the highest levels. His kit fits a very narrow, specific setup that requires a lot of people around you. And I really think you're not going to get that in solo queue. Hayes might be the best solo carry in the game right now. He's definitely up there. If not, she's top 2 minimum. If Hayes gets ahead, it's kind of wild, the stuff she can do. Even when your opponents itemize against you properly, it's still really difficult to deal with a silencer, unstoppable Hayes who's, got like a 5 or 10k soul lead. It can be really difficult, as well as, she's got various builds, a lot of different ways to play her. She's a great split pusher. You can just go the silencer, like one-on-one, I'm going to sleep you and burn you down before you can touch me build, all that kind of stuff. She's just really, overall, really strong. Infernus, I'm actually going to put Infernus just behind her in S tier. There's going to be a few people in front of Infernus. I think he's kind of towards the tail of S tier, but I do think he is S tier right now. I think the leech changes helped him a lot. I know that the change in how lifesteal and spirit lifesteal stack isn't great, but I don't think it really made that big of a difference for him. I played him earlier today and on a 5k soul lead, nothing even really too crazy. I was able to 1v3 fairly consistently and at the very least get away, if not kill a couple of them. I think he's still really strong. You do really need to farm up, but I think a good Infernus puts any game on a timer. Ivy. I think Ivy's Ivy's kind of funny, right? So we're gonna go A tier with Ivy. I think she's kind of almost the inverse of Dynamo in the way that, like, and I don't mean that Dynamo's bad. It's just that, like, she's a support that's a bit more self-sufficient, and Dynamo's a support that's a bit less self-sufficient, right? A bit more supportive. Ivy can straight up solo lane. Ivy can straight up split push. That bomb build with escalating exposure is still really, really strong and annoying to deal with. You drop that, and then you just drop down and stun people, and it's a great engage. A lot you can do with it, and she can be very self-sufficient. But she also doesn't solo hard carry games. She does need, you know, one or two of her teammates to kind of be in the game with her. However, she's pretty good at helping her teammates get in the game. So I'm going to put her towards the top of A tier. Next we have Kelvin. Kelvin is going to sneak in front of Infernus. He's just really good right now. He did get nerfed a bit recently again. I don't remember what they were off the top of my head, but he's still definitely very good. I think the reason he's going to have so much value in solo queue is because you can build him in so many different ways. So you run into a game where you don't know what your team comp is going to be, and then you end up needing DPS. Well, okay, 3 max by Surge, and then max your path second. By mid to late game, you're chasing around Vindicta or on an ice path, going around really high, around the fight, doing a ridiculous amount of damage to anybody near you. Or you can go support with a lot of healing, or you can kind of go a little bit halfway between, a little hybrid. He works really, really well. One of the cool things about Kelvin is you don't really need to full commit in one direction or the other, like a lot of characters do when you're building. You can really kind of find a happy middle ground. Lady Geist is, we're gonna put her towards the middle of B tier. A lot of people think Lady Geist is good. Personally, I think she's terrible. Personally, but a lot of people think she's better than I do, so I'm gonna give some of these people who I do have a level of respect for their game knowledge. I'm gonna give them some credit, so I'll put her in B tier as much as I want to stick her in C tier. Personally, I just don't seem to ever have any issues dealing with Lady Geist at any point in the game. If you know what to look for, she's really easy to deal with, but that might be because I dealt with her pretty early on a lot when I first started playing the game, and so the ability to deal with Lady Geist is kind of ingrained in my head. But I really don't think she's that strong. However, if you run into some not super great players who are willing to chase you, you can really 1v11 super, super easily. If people don't know how to deal with you, you just run over the lobby. People do know how to deal with you, you're basically just an AoE bot that just throws bombs and then can kind of peel for herself. Which isn't bad, but it's not going to 1v11 you anything if the other team knows how to play against you. The Lash Hole. We're going to put Lash Hole on the tail end of A. He's right around here. He's still really good. He does need to be ahead in order to really kind of have a ton of impact on the game. But a well-placed Lash Hole really can do a ton of work. You can still, if you're behind, just stack some HP and buy Kevlars, and then just pick them up, throw them down, drop on top of them, and then fight, and you'll last a pretty good amount of time in the thick of it there. But of course, a Lash that's really far ahead is obviously insanely difficult to deal with. Another reason I don't have him really any higher than A is I do think he's a little bit harder to play, and I do think if you're not ahead, being in the middle of everybody is not where you want to be. And that's how he has to play the game, which is just a big negative, especially in solo queue when you don't know, maybe both duo lanes, had their walkers taken at 8 minutes or something crazy like that. And now, even though you're playing really well, your opponents are too strong for you to be able to jump in the middle and that kind of thing. McGinnis is going to go B tier, probably just in front of Lady Geist. Actually, just in front of Dynamo. I like McGinnis a little bit more. I feel like every patch and every game I play against her, I feel like I like her a little bit more as a character. I think in comp, I have some theory behind her being like a really strong, artillery mage type character that primarily is focusing on ults with putting some turrets down in front of you to help your frontliners while you heal with you and your other backliner. I haven't really seen that fleshed out yet at anything other than the comp level. Her wall at the comp level is crazy. In a solo queue environment, that wall can be very strong and give you a lot of agency, but I don't know. I can't bring myself to put her really any higher than B. Maybe I'm wrong on this. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on this, but I can't seem, I mean, I'll put her in front of Bebop, but I can't seem to put her, it just doesn't seem like she deserves A. I don't know why. Mirage. Okay, so Mirage. So we're gonna put Mirage in the C tier. He's a good character who's strong, especially leading into the mid game, and at the comp level is really, really good and is absolutely ban worthy. But again, we're not playing comp, we're playing solo queue ranked. We don't know how good our teammates are gonna be. Unless you have insanely good map awareness, you're not gonna get a lot out of his ult. I don't think he's really that strong, and I don't know if I've ever seen 1v11 or like, I don't think I've ever seen a Mirage really hard carry. I've, as a Vindicta or a Grey Talon, feared the Mirage on the other team, but he wasn't 1v9ing. He was just preventing me from being able to do. He was just forcing me into a 1v1 every game or every fight, which isn't really even what he should be doing, but was kind of working. Like, I've had that experience, but I've never seen one like really 1v9 before. I've always been able to kind of shut him down or ignore him to an extent, or somebody else was able to take over the fight while he was focusing on me. Mo and Krill. Mo and Krill is going to go top of A tier. Mo and Krill's really good, like really, really good. The only reason they're not an S tier is because I think Abrams still clears. The ult puts you in a really kind of like a really vulnerable spot. You kind of have to commit. I know you can cancel it, but you'd kind of have to commit. If your teammates don't follow up and say like a Fed Infernus, Kelvin, or Hayes walks over to you, it can be really bad pretty quickly. That being said, you know, he's usually pretty good at getting teammates fed, which really helps in solo queue. So I'm definitely gonna put him in the top of A tier. I just don't think he's quite S tier yet. Paradox. Paradox is going to go in C tier with Mirage, a little bit in front of Mirage. Paradox is one of those characters that is super, super crazy good at the comp level, really bad at the low level. If you're really good with Paradox, I would definitely say still play her in ranked, especially if you're going to be using your mic and calling out ults and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I'd stay away from her. Honestly, I would. I'd put her in D tier. If it wasn't for the fact that someone who like is fairly good with her can consistently carry with her at most levels, unlike like a Grey Talon. All right, Pocket is probably the best character in the game for solo queue. Really is, if you know how to play him. The stuff I've seen my team's Pocket player do is just absolutely crazy. Pocket is just really strong right now, especially in an environment where communication is at the very least not going to be very good, if it even exists, because he's in burst damage, AoE, disruptive, mage type character that just does obnoxious things and is an extremely disruptive character in a team fight where communication is already going to be at its most difficult, and now we're throwing in, you know, it's solo queue. We don't even know if some of our teammates know how to press the push to talk button or if they know what Pocket does. So if the Pocket's even so much as even with the rest of the characters in the game, anytime the Pocket player, anytime they show up to a team fight, it's going to be very impactful. The Pocket's going to be very impactful. The only downfall I would say is in solo queue, it might be harder to force team fights sometimes, but 7 is, I don't know where to put 7 right now, man. Like I really don't. He's in such a weird spot. His stun is, for most of the game, and unless you really itemize into it, it's more of an interrupt than a stun. I mean, like, it's like a 0.1 second stun. Like, it's barely a stun. However, I really feel like there's a really strong, like, AoE, like, spirit build that I haven't tested yet, but I've been kind of theorizing since the changes with his one getting so huge. I do think that in solo queue, with the lack of communication stuff, I do think he's gonna go high B tier. He might be A tier. I don't know. You know, might be one of those picks that in 2 days I'm gonna come back and go, no, he's A tier. I should have told you, but I'm gonna go B tier for right now. I am gonna test that build out a little bit and see how I feel about it. Yeah, I'm just gonna put him there for now, and we'll see. I do still think the 3-max Surge carry build's pretty good, but I don't think it's anything crazy anymore. Next in A tier we have Shiv. He's just really, really strong, really hard to deal with. I played against one earlier as Infernus, and I was ahead of him, and I couldn't 1v1 him. I couldn't really deal with him. He's really difficult to deal with. He forces you to itemize into him, and if you get ahead, you can really carry. Now, again, if you're behind, he has, like, next to no CC, and he can be annoying, but if he doesn't do any damage, what's annoying to you in a team fight? It's nothing. It's not going to win you a team fight. Otherwise, he'd go much higher, much higher. But he needs to be not ahead. He doesn't need to be fed, but he needs to be even and played well or ahead in order to succeed. Otherwise, he just is useless and falls behind so hard if he's forced to continuously team fight. Vindicta. We're going to put Vindicta right in front of Grey Talon here. Maybe a little bit closer to C, but I don't know. I still think if you're really good at the game, and you have great aim, what we call like the op build, the alt max with increased burst and spirit and mystic reverb and all that kind of stuff, I think that still does a lot of damage and is really good. But I also think, kind of similar to Talent, she's now a lot more like niche, fits a very specific purpose in a team fight, in a team environment. And she's also extremely squishy and has very little mobility. All of her mobility is built into her flight, which is on a very long cooldown at almost all points in the game. And so if that's on a cooldown, you're a sitting duck. And even if it's not on a cooldown, you really don't even actually go all that far with the like flight jump tech that you can do. Granted, one that's crazy ahead does some crazy stuff. I have a Vindicta video coming out soon that's just insane. The level of damage, it felt like I was playing like an arcade game. It was crazy. But that was in a bit more organized team environment with a pretty good lead. And that's kind of what she needs to succeed, and that's not what we can rely upon in solo queue, so she's going to go in D tier. Viscous, Mr. Grubal. Mr. Grubal is going to probably round out our B tier here. Yeah, I think Viscous rounds out our B tier. I think Viscous is really strong when played by the right person, but is definitely more difficult than everybody else on B tier. So if you're playing him regularly, then you'll be in a good spot. Otherwise, I think he'd be very, very difficult to play. So I wouldn't recommend him to a lot of different people, especially for solo queue. A lot of his kit does require follow-up. Outside of using his ball in a lot of areas of the map, he's not really, unless he's really fed, gonna just blow you up and catch you out and be able to do much on his own. A lot of the times he does need help. Not always. He's kind of just barely above C and Paradox and Mirage in the way that like he can be fairly self-sufficient without being ahead, as long as you know how to play him. You don't need to be really good with him to carry, but you do need to like really play him a lot to understand how to play him at all. So there's that. All right, Warden. All my homies hate Warden. Stream viewers will know that joke. Warden. Warden got a fat buff. So we're gonna put Warden up here in front of Ivy, right behind Shiv. For the same reason as Shiv, he's not S tier. A Warden who's behind is useless. A Warden who's behind is just running at you. He's just a meat shield. I always find it funny as Infernus when there is a Warden behind, because I'll ignore him for a minute or two and then use him to heal because he's not a threat to me. However, if he's not behind, with the buffs they gave him, he can be very difficult to deal with. Very oppressive in lane, very frustrating to play against, does a lot of damage. He can be very, very, very difficult to deal with. He's basically just like a more straightforward, I'm going to run at you version of Shiv, which means that he's got a little bit less of like skill expression, a little bit less of a ceiling than Shiv has, but also means that, as long as you're in the team fight, you're going to be somewhat useful and able to survive a bit with your ult and stuff like that. Wraith. Wraith's probably gonna round out the A tier here. Wraith is good. I think the 7 nerfs put him a little below her. Remember how I said 7 might be here, mate, right? Like, it's hard for me to tell. I haven't really decided yet. The reason I'm putting Wraith there is because I still think she kind of falls off a little bit as a team fight carry. However, there are some card builds that are really good at range to deal with like Vindicta Great Talon. And there are also this new build that's out where you pick up Weave or Shadow Weave or something along those lines. It's a gun item, 6,200. You pick that up and then you go invisible and you just run around, get really close to somebody so they can't run away from your ult. Pop your ult and then blow them up. Kind of very similar to like an Assassin Haze. I definitely think she's definitely really strong right now, but I also think that the idea of 1v9ing with her is not really something that I'm going to see a lot of people doing. I don't think she's quite strong enough in most cases. In order for you to like really hard carry with Wraith, I think you really, really have to be ahead. And then last we have Yamato. Yamato's going to round out our C tier. If you one-trick Yamato, great. Otherwise, she sucks, kinda. I think she's better than Vindicta and Great Talon because she's less reliant on being babysat. She's got way more mobility. If you're caught out or someone's, on top of you, it's a little bit more likely you're going to get away. People are less likely to try to dive you and target you in team fights because of your ult. However, if you're behind, you're just kind of there. You don't really do a whole lot. And I really do think they kind of gutted some of her numbers and a couple of her builds. I'm not a Yamato expert, but I have definitely seen a drop off in Yamato players. Most of the Yamato players I've played against have not been very good. And I've seen a lot of opinions that kind of mirror my own about Yamato right there. So that is our solo queue. Ranked tier list. Good luck to everybody with their games. Remember that this is a early development build of the game. They're currently trying to figure out their matchmaking system. That's why some of my games tonight were fucking terrible. And so do your best to not tilt, and hopefully you get some good teammates. Until next time, as always, I stream on Twitch just about every single day. I'll throw the link in the description. You guys have a good day.